What's going on, guys? My name is John, and today I'm going to give you a ridiculously quick and easy tip to help you set the height of your outfeed table on the jointer. Alright, before I show you how to adjust the outfeed table to the proper height, I do want to help you diagnose the problems that you're having right now. It's going to put you in a better spot when you go to adjust the outfeed table later on. And just for your own knowledge, it's important to know why a bad cut is happening. Apologies for not introducing you earlier. This is my 8-inch joiner, Jabba the Cut. He is going to be helping us with a demonstration today. Jabba the Cut meet YouTube, YouTube meet Jabba the Cut. Okay, so the most common issue that's going to happen with your jointer being set up incorrectly is the outfeed table will be too low, resulting in snipe. Okay, so the reason that this happens, your board is going to be traveling along, everything is going to be going great. It'll be supported by the infeed table majority of the way through, but once it loses the support of the infeed table right here on the cut, the board then drops down to match the height of the outfeed table. And when it drops down like that, it takes off more material right at the tail end of the cut, and that's what gives you snipe. All right, the second thing that can happen, and this one is a little bit trickier to diagnose, is your outfeed table being too high, which is going to give you a tapered or a bowed cut. Now, if your outfeed table is set much too high, you're going to know it right away because you're actually not going to be able to make a cut at all. The board is going to pass over the cutter head, and then it's just going to keep slamming into the front of the outfeed table. It really won't even be able to make its way there. But if your outfeed table is set just barely too high, and we're talking thousandths of an inch here, you're never going to be able to feel it, but you'll know it after a cut when you lay your board on a straight edge and you see the taper or the bow. So the reason this happens is that your board is going to be traveling along, and I'm going to exaggerate for the sake of this demonstration, but the outfeed table being too high is basically going to act like a ramp. Your board is going to pass over the cutter head, it's going to continue to get raised up in the front of the cut on the outfeed table, and as that happens, you can see that the back starts to drop down, and you end up taking more and more material off the end of the cut. So the first thing we're going to do to fix this is make one pass to get a relatively square edge. Then we're going to take a second pass, but this time we're only going to pass the board through about 4 to 6 inches and then stop the cut and pull it backwards. All right, so this is where the ridiculously easy part comes in. We're going to use the cut that we just made here to properly set the height of the table. All right, so you've got your board back down onto the jointer. The cut that we just made needs to be extended to the outfeed table so that we can use that as our referential measurement. Now, if when you were diagnosing your problem, your outfeed table was too high relative to the cutter head, before you made that second cut, I would lower your infeed table because it's much easier to adjust the table up than it is to adjust it down into a cut. Now, there's a couple different schools of thought in terms of setting the outfeed height relative to the top of the blade. Some people will tell you that it should be dead level with it. Other people will tell you that the outfeed table actually needs to be a thou or two below the top of the blade. I've owned a couple different jointers, and I've actually found that it's different from one to the other. I'm going to guess that that has something to do with just how your jointer is set up and how coplanar or not coplanar your beds are. But for Jabba the Hutt, I know that if I get this outfeed table dead flat with the top of this knife, I get a perfect cut every time. So I'm going to slowly raise the table up. Looks pretty good there, and a good way to test this to make sure you're not too high, you can pull the board back and you should be able to freely slide it. If it is too high, you'll feel some resistance, so let me get this thing set a little too high. So obviously this is much too high right now, it's not even extending over. Let's drop it down a touch there. That's better. You can still slide it over, but you see how it's catching? So you know you're too high there, so you can lower it down. That looks good. You also want to make sure that when the cut is resting on the outfeed table, you're not pushing up on it. But you would know that you're doing that if you start to see a gap forming along this cut line here. But that looks pretty good, like it's resting evenly on the infeed table. So we'll take one more pass here just to feel it. Looks good. All right, so I'm going to lock that in place. We will make another cut and we will check out the results. Now you should have a perfectly flat edge. To test it, you can put it down on your outfeed table, or you can use a straight edge and shine a light behind it. Okay, if your board is still not laying perfectly flat on edge at this point, that's okay. We can still make a couple other adjustments. Remember what we talked about earlier and what is causing either snipe or bow. If you fast forwarded through that part, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to go back and watch. I'm kidding, that'd be mean. I'm not gonna make you go back and watch. If you've got a little bit of snipe, you need to raise your table up just fractionally. And if you've got a little bit of a bow or taper at this point, you have to bring the table down just fractionally. Remember, we're talking very, very, very small adjustments at this point. You should be relatively close. Now that you've got your own job of the cut dialed back in, you can start making some more sawdust. I hope this tip helped, and I will see you guys on the next one.